Welcome to another episode of the Dahlem Realty Podcast, where we bring you deep insights, thought leadership, and conversations with visionaries shaping the commercial real estate and development landscape. Today, we have a very special guest, Bob Koetter, owner and CEO of the Koetter Group. Bob leads the Koetter Group, a comprehensive enterprise with capabilities spanning construction, real estate development, and building services across the Louisville and southern Indiana areas.
And welcome back to the Dahlem Realty Podcast. Today, we are joined by Bob Koetter with the Koetter Group. Based in southern Indiana, been a friend of ours for quite a while now, and is quite an accomplished businessman. So, Bob, thanks for coming and joining us.
Hey, you're welcome.
So, you're a third-generation owner of the Koetter Group. Can you take us back to when your company started? Who founded it? What inspired the beginning?
Sure. So it was 1954. Our mother and father, which I say our because I've got four brothers, and I try not to make it about me. It's definitely the five of us. But Mom and Dad started the company. Dad was working for a residential house framer, framing houses, and for a couple of years, and then he ended up, that guy retired and moved to Florida, and Dad took over his business. So at that point, they built a house, 600 square foot home in Floyds Knobs on Mom's family's property. And that's where the business started. The five boys, five of us grew up in that house and grew up in the business. So from the time we could pick up a 2x4 or maybe not necessarily swing a hammer, but we started working in the business. And we had a farm that Mom would kind of work and Dad would work at night. So we really framing houses by day and farming at night. That's kind of how it started in 1954.
That's great. So what values and philosophies from your grandfather or your father still guide the Koetter Group today?
You know, obviously hard work. I mean, I don't know anybody that worked any harder than our parents. And just doing what you say you're going to do. And treating not only your employees, but your customer and everybody like family, like you'd want to be treated yourself. But yeah, the hard work and just doing what's right, even if you lose money, but doing what's right.
Got it.
Looking back to your early history, is there anything that most people don't know about your all's family business? Is there a story or anything that you can share with us?
Oh, I've got a lot.
Yeah, I think
there's several, and I probably
can't repeat some. There's some of those in our business.
Yeah. No, but I also want to back up, too. I probably didn't fill in the whole thing. That's how they got started and when they got started. But I want to allude to maybe the progression of it, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So obviously you started framing houses on the residential side. And I love these stories because anytime I talk to a family business or anybody successful business, you know, what were the things that weren't successful? And I'm going to get into a couple of those. Those are the funny things. But
nobody wants to talk about the losers.
No.
Right?
But if you've been in business long enough, you've had them.
You've had
Probably more losers than people have winners, typically.
True.
But what really took us to, you know, it's that one thing that maybe took you to another level in the business. And Dad was framing houses for a developer, a residential developer, and he had, I think, maybe 3 homes going for him. And that guy just happened to be a commercial contractor also. And he had a Dixie Steel metal building franchise. So Dad framed 3 houses, and the guy said, look, I can't pay you, but I'm willing to give you my Dixie Steel building franchise, a 1-ton truck, trailer, John Deere straight mass forklift, and a Miller welder. So that's how we kind of catapulted into the commercial, because at the time we were all residential, and then we started building metal buildings, and at one point, it was Dixie Steel, and then it went to Atlantic Steel, and they all got bought out. But at one point with Atlantic Steel, we were always the top dealer in the Midwest. We sold more pre-engineered metal buildings than anybody in the Midwest.
About what year was that when all that went down with your dad and the contractor?
That was the late 60s.
Late 60s. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, pre-engineered steel was just
Starting to come on.
starting to come on about that time.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool to hear, how some of those, I don't know how that would have transpired getting into commercial if had it not been for that. Or you take somewhere somebody couldn't pay you, take a bad thing, turn it into a good thing.
That's what happened to
That's
our
what happened to our
grandfather.
father. Yeah, our company started the same way. The grandfather was building.
He was a superintendent.
on a job building an apartment building in the Highlands here in Louisville, and it was the height of the Great Depression. And the contractor or his boss said, "I can't pay you. I don't have money to pay your wages." And he said, "I'll take it in lumber." And he took it in lumber and borrowed $500 from his father-in-law. And then he proceeded to go down to 4th Street in Louisville, which is where all the shopping was. It was the main shopping corridor, and started building storefronts for people. That's how it started.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Yep.
And I wonder how that happens, if it happens that much today. It's one thing somebody not getting paid. Now it just seems like we didn't pay you, and we do it. This is where people really honored what they said they were going to do.
Exactly.
So,
And speaking of that, our grandfather got his first big contract at Fall City Beer, and the architect said, "No, you can't give this kid the contract. He's not big enough. He can't handle this." And the guy said, "No, there was a Dahlem that owned a bar in downtown Louisville. It had to have been his father. This guy always paid his bills on time, so we're going to give this kid a shot." And that was how that catapulted forward for us. So it's just these little stories, and I don't think that happens today.
no, I don't think it does either. I thought you was going to say he traded in beer.
Traded in beer, well, that might have worked out okay too.
Yeah. So the other thing that when you talk about failures, so that ended up being a success, but you have opportunities. It seems like the more you get involved, the more you do, the more opportunities are that come along. And some are tempting, and you do them, but they just don't work out. So one thing that you probably don't know about Koetter, because it didn't last very long, but Dad and my Uncle Eddie, and this would have been probably in the 60s also, you guys will remember Tarzan,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the movie, but a lot of young people listening don't know who Tarzan is. But shoot, now I'm with the actor's name.
What was his name?
Johnny.
Yeah.
Shoot.
It'll come back. But Johnny.
Yeah. So anyway, so Tarzan, the movie. So Johnny ended up Johnny Weissmuller.
Yeah.
He had because he was such a good swimmer, and I think he was an Olympic swimmer.
He was.
But he came up with a swimming pool franchise. So my dad and Uncle Eddie decided they bought this swimming pool franchise. So one summer, I think they built 2 swimming pools, and that lasted that summer, and that was that extent of it.
And it burned out.
Yeah. So no more swimming pools, and I don't know how many swimming pools were being built in 1965 or whatever.
Right.
It was that, but yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. They had Johnny Weissmuller's on there's an old advertisement in the paper with Johnny Weissmuller and
Very funny.
Dad and Uncle Eddie's. The other thing was they decided to get into the trucking business, and they bought a Dad, and there again my Uncle Eddie. My Uncle Eddie ended up working for Dad, basically his whole life. He worked for us all the way till he retired. But they decided to be smart to get into the trucking business, so they bought a single axle Studebaker dump truck, and they went to the quarry here, one of the Rogers quarries underneath the Louisville Zoo.
Yeah.
At the time, and they pulled in and they loaded the truck with rock, and my understanding is there's a pretty good incline coming out of that quarry, and they got about halfway up the hill and they ran out of power.
Oh no!
Couldn't make it up the hill, and Uncle Eddie looked over at Dad. He said, "Well, now what are we going to do?" He said, "Well, I don't think we got but one choice." He raised the bed up, dumped it, and took off and sold the truck, and they were out of the trucking business. Lasted one day.
Lasted a day.
Yeah.
Hey, they tried.
Yeah.
Okay, so family business. I've worked with my brother. We've had 2 sisters in the business. You mentioned your 4 brothers in the business, and you've got you're in your third generation with the next group down from you. We are the third generation. There's a whole lot more of you than there were and are of us. I mean, how are the relationships across generations? How do you keep that magic sauce kind of going? There's a lot of personalities, and there's a whole lot of people with different, I wouldn't say agendas, but they got different wants and needs and interests. And, you all have been able to manage that pretty well. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting, and I've always said before, I love working with my four brothers. I mean, because there's not a slouch in any. I mean, everybody, they put their effort in, they try, and the work ethic is there, and we care. And I think one thing that made us successful for the five of us is that we all had our own division that we ran. My oldest brother because we started in house framing, he was a carpenter, so he just took over the carpentry and kind of ran that division. Jack started some of the site division, but then he got into real estate. So when we got into real estate, that's what he took over and dealt with that side of it. My middle brother, Kenny, he went to Prosser, got his welding, learned to be a welder, was a certified welder, and then it was about the time we were in that pre-engineered metal building franchise, so he ran our steel and our steel division, or started and ran it. Built a fabricating division, and then, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was getting ready to sign up for Prosser, and I asked Dad, the bricklayer was drunk that day and didn't show up, so he said, I need a bricklayer. So I ended up signing up for trial trades, and by the time I graduated from Prosser, I started our division, had three guys working for me on a masonry division. Wayne ran the site division. So none of us had to work for each other.
Right.
We all worked with each other and kind of paired together, but we stayed out of each other's business, which I think made it work pretty well. You fast forward now we got 7 G3s. We call them G3s. I don't think they necessarily like that nickname, but they working in the business. Ironically, I'm the only one that doesn't have a G3 working in the business. My two daughters are doing other things outside the company. And, with being involved, and I know you guys and Jim and I was on the board together at the Family Business Center, but one thing I learned through the Family Business Center is, obviously less than 13% make it to the third generation.
Right.
And I've always said to the G3s, or third generation, they felt a lot of pressure with that. Every time I hear that, they cringe. They said, oh my gosh, we're going to screw this up. Mm-hmm. I said, it's not the third generation's fault that it fails. It's really the first and second generation's responsibility to make sure that they succeed. So that's what we're trying to do now, and trying to prepare, and not just preparing, but get it set up. But you're right, there's different personalities. The five of us, we're 100% blood. Man, every generation you dilute that blood, even though the brothers, we didn't agree, and we could have one problem, we'd have 5 different solutions, but still we would work it out. And I was more proud of that than anything. And I am proud of the next generation, the third generation, for what they'll collaborate and they'll discuss things and work through it. So it's fun watching that, but it is different. It's definitely different.
Yeah. So what's the age ranges in there? They've got to be in their 20s and 30s now, right?
Oh yeah. Well, even in their 40s. So,
okay.
Early 40s all the way down to late 20s.
Well, so you're getting it done. I mean, it's happening. So
I remember going into as a G3 generation, the third generation coming in. I always heard the majority of them fail by the third generation, which made me just wide-eyed and scared me a lot. That's like, well, why? And looking around every corner and trying to make sure that you don't misstep. If I'd heard that less than 13% of them had survived, that would have been even scarier. I didn't know that number until maybe last year when somebody said that to me, and it was jaw-dropping. But yeah,
very very difficult. But I really do believe that it's having those conversations with the first and second generation before the third generation even gets to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And not just expect them to be in a business, or not just expect that the oldest child is going to take over.
Take it over.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Right.
So, some of the challenges in running a multi-generation business, how do you overcome some of the challenges that you face? What would be some of the challenges, and what are your solutions to them?
I think just being upfront with it and having those hard conversations. But I think just being able to have that conversation, being honest, and I'm not very good at talking about things that's going to hurt somebody's feelings, but after that I felt better about it. So sometimes you just got to have those. I'm not very controversial. I don't like.
No, you're not. You're not. And operating that way, I think probably the other G3 kids, for lack of better words, they're going to find out. Oh, Uncle Bob had a good conversation. That's good. I mean, that it's like that opens the door, and it doesn't let something fester or turn into something that doesn't have
Do it
to.
sooner rather than later, too.
And everybody knows it, and it's like, okay, that's what we do. We just talk about it, so that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
And we do have employment policies, so we can't just hire a family member just because they're a family member without having a job. We're not going to create a position just for the family member.
Yeah.
And then they've got to fit they got to meet the criteria and for the job description.
Okay.
And then our pay compensation is the same way. We pay based on what that role will bring.
Mm-hmm.
Which was different with the 5 of us.
Right.
We were overpaid for the position because we felt like we were owners. But, I think that's pretty typical in family business. But after you've got 12, 14, 15 people in the business, you can't.
Yeah. You got to go ahead and pay accordingly to what the level is of where they are. Yeah.
How many employees do you have overall right now? I mean, because you're bringing them into a larger group who's looking at all that. Right, into a larger family, your larger employment family, and let people look at that.
Yeah.
So
they do. So we're at 200 now, and and we've always, and even our HR is telling those 7 G3s, look, everybody's they're looking up to you. You said you gotta have the bar has risen. You've got to meet that bar. And it's harder. It's going to be harder on them than it is anybody else. Mm-hmm. Everybody's looking at you. They're going to scrutinize what they do based on, somebody else can get by with it, but a family member can't get by with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you ever, was there ever a time where you were thinking when you were a sophomore, I'm going to go do something else? Or did you just always like, this is the track I'm on. This is where I'm going. I'm in the family business. I've been doing this since I was younger. This is just what we do. Was that kind of how it happened?
It was absolutely, I never had any, I never wanted to do anything else, never thought about doing anything else. But when I got to vocational school, I could teach the class. Mm-hmm. And I picked up on it quick, and that's what I love to do. So, by my junior year, I couldn't wait. I had side jobs. I was doing mailboxes. I was doing little stuff on the side. I was doing jobs. I didn't play football. I didn't play sports, anything. I couldn't wait at 3 o'clock to get in the car and go to the job site. So I never even thought about doing anything else. Now, I look back and wish I would have done some things other than, I think I would have liked to have played football, but I can walk pretty good right now, so it's probably good I didn't.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah, get your head intact, too. So, yeah. In your earlier years in the company, what personal lessons did you learn that still influence your leadership style today?
Probably the biggest thing is just to trust your gut. So many times you can look at, and we still do, we do a lot with personality profiles and resumes and looking at people, and even customers or people, sometimes you get that knot in your stomach that says something just doesn't feel right about this. And I mean, probably 99% of the time, your gut's right.
Yeah.
So definitely listen to your gut.
Yeah. I hear you on that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And whenever I haven't done it, I've
Regretted it.
regretted it. Yes, for sure. So
we used to be kind of on the opposite side of things together. We used to be competitors, and now we've partnered some as a client, thanks to you guys calling us in on some things. And from your perspective, how do you see balance competing in the industry when building collaborative work relationships? I mean, how do you probably do that with other people? We've just seen our relationship as it's grown over the years.
Yeah. We have done it with others, but first of all, thank you guys for being partners, and it is a great partnership because you're good people, you're good, and you run a good business. So
thank you.
That makes it easier, obviously. The development, the centers that you guys are maintaining and taking care of as far as has gone very, very well. So as long as that all goes well and
we're all happy,
and we're all happy, that's good. Let's keep that going.
That's right.
You know, with us being a contractor that self-performs a lot of things, you know, I ended up in YPO and on my forum with Scott Greger with Buffalo Construction.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, at first we thought that might be a conflict. Well, at the time, Scott wasn't doing much locally. He was doing all stuff out of town, and we didn't do anything out of town. Now he's come in and he's tried to take all the work away from us. But he is, and he's done an awesome job with what he's done with that business and the growth. I think about that. This is to you, Scott. Give you credit, but you know I've got 4 brothers. We've been doing this for 50, 60 years, and this guy comes in by himself and 20 years and just totally runs right over us from a volume standpoint. We still do it. We still build a better product, but
naturally, yes.
But yeah, so we'll subcontract our masonry and different things out to not only him but some other GCs too.
Oh, really? Sub out to some GCs? Okay.
Yeah, and we've worked together on projects. So we do a lot of churches. And so St. Mary's of Knobs Church is with the parish that mom and dad belong to, and we grew up in. But so does but AML is right next door too.
Right.
So, 12 years ago, I guess, when we built the church, and they were doing the capital campaign and raising money. So they're after, the Libs family, and they're after the Cutters, and they're all right, how are we going to work this out and get something out of both of them? So we took our competitors' hats off and we put our church hats on, and we built the church and they built the gymnasium. We kind of worked. We split the job up.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we're potentially getting ready to do that again. Except it's a single project. It's going to be a little bit harder to split up.
Ooh.
But
We'll look forward to hearing how that goes.
Yeah. So, but you know what? It's for the right reason, and sometimes you just check your ego at the door and do what's right for the church.
Gotcha.
And for God. So
That's I was about to. The next question was, kind of what sets you apart from your competition in construction and real estate. And I would say what you just said there. That's one thing, is that you've got your priorities in order, and you all and your other competitors are working together and understand when we're true hard competitors and when we're going to do something for God, do something for the community, and that sort of thing. So, but what sets you all apart with your all's construction and with your real estate in the marketplace? You mentioned self-performing.
Yeah. Obviously, we probably are one of the only original, general contractors 50 years ago used to self-perform a lot of stuff.
And describe to the audience what self-performance is, just so that we know it, but
Yeah. Yeah, so in self-performing, I mentioned masonry early, so we do our own masonry. That's typical GC, or especially if you're CM, which is construction management, they will just go out and hire, and they will manage subcontractors. I'm not going to look at you guys because I know you guys know how that works. But and then a general contractor will do some of the same things. He'll hire an electrician, he'll hire a mechanical, he may hire concrete. But when we self-perform, we don't always, and this is where we pair up with other subcontractors too.
Right.
We don't just, but like masonry, for instance, we will either do that ourselves, which would be self-performing, or we will subcontract it out to somebody. And that we do site work, we do concrete, we do masonry, we do steel fabrication, steel erection, we do carpentry. And then we actually have our own drafting. We used to have an architect in-house too, so.
We did that for a little while.
Yeah.
Didn't work out real well.
Yep.
Well, all of a sudden we found out we were getting blacklisted by all the architects for the bid work. They didn't like us having an architecture company, so we had to go find those jobs else. Those guys all got jobs elsewhere. My dad went and found them a job at Hubbox.
Yeah.
And that was how we got out of the architecture business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is funny. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
We had that, our architect that had our stamp, Gilbert Campbell, actually passed away, and then after that we just kind of said, you know what, we got draftsmen, we'll do the drawings and get it up to a certain point, and then they'll hire an architect to come in or team up with an architect to finish that off.
What? So that's self-performing work, and we were in and out of different work, self-performing, and then we'd find out we need to get back into that. We need to do that because we need to control the quality. We need to control the timing. We had to. It was that critical. So yeah, I get that. Mm-hmm.
It has evolved. I see a lot of competitors that used to self-perform and then they got away from it, and now they're kind of for the exact same reason. We can control quality, we control schedule. So it's really a balancing act with. You got to be upfront with your subcontractors, even to the point of our division managers now that run those divisions. I said, you've got other trades that are, you can call them competitors, you can call them teammates, but let's just say concrete, for instance. You just need to be upfront with that concrete subcontractor that, hey, this job we're bidding, if we get it, we're going to list you, as I said, we're going to use you. We're not going to get down to 11th hour and say, oh, by the way, we're going to do it ourselves.
Right.
Because it puts them in a bad spot.
Sure.
You got to be able to be honest and be, shoot straight with them.
And that's assessing risk, right? I mean, how do you assess risk? I mean, you're assessing risk when you decide to vertically integrate and self-perform something. If you decide you're going to buy equipment and do your own site work, if that equipment's not moving, you got to assess the risk on how much equipment you want to have sitting around that's not moving, that sort of thing. Is that fair? Fair?
Yeah, to the point, owning equipment or leasing equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a moving target.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We used to own everything. Now we lease a lot.
Right. Yeah, we did yeah.
We ran the numbers.
I remember.
Back and forth multiple times. Do we need to get our own equipment? Some people would say yes, and others saying no because just going to sit there. If it sits idly, then it's going to eat you alive. And we had those debates for multiple years.
And speaking of new lines of business, let's talk about K-Rax.
Okay.
Just a little bit. So we want to tell everybody what K-Rax is, how you came up with the concept and got a patent on it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So anything's got to do with bourbon's got to be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
We were working for, let me tell you what K-Rax. So K-Rax is a premium barrel storage spirits system. So we built a system that you store barrels in. It's nothing new in the industry. I mean, you store barrels in a rick house, and actually you hear it called rack house or rick house. It's both. They're both proper.
And if anybody knows bourbon, they've seen pictures, and the rick house is the big warehouse that you see in the pictures, right? That's
where it ages. It'll age however many years they want it to age there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they roll them in those ricks and just let them sit there for 4, 5, 10, 12, 15, 20 years.
Right. Yep.
So, a lot of these rick houses you see, they're 70, 80 years old. So there's some old ones out there. But so when we were, this is funny, earlier I said, these businesses just keep evolving. You start doing this, and next thing you know, you're over here doing something else. So our building services division, which we went in and did repairs and maintenance to buildings, we started with 2 carpenters down at Jim Beam repairing some wood flooring and some stairs and some dunnage and posts and a rick house. And next thing you know, we got 25 down there. We're working there full time. And they asked us if we would be interested in building their new rick houses now that we're repairing and doing maintenance on the old ones. And we said, sure, I would, but I really don't want to put my name on the way that they're some of these were built years ago, and I got to be careful how I say it. I don't want to make it sound like they're just horrible, but I said there's some things we'd like to do different. And from a safety standpoint, and especially when we had a safety division that did fall protection, and there was a lot of opportunities to improve on the safety side and on the structural side. So we said, sure, we'll look at it, and we would create we called it a new mousetrap. So, and this is a fun thing too, because we teamed up with our cousins, Koetter Woodworking,
Right.
in processing the wood and designing and coming up with this concept. So we use a single species, that's the biggest difference between our product and what's been built over the last 50 years. We use southern yellow pine. It's glue laminated. It's heat treated and kiln dried, so it's pretty much powder post beetle resistant. And I say that because most of the repairs that we were doing those 5 years in those rick houses was replacing post and dunnage and plates that powder post beetles were eating that were infestation into it and eating them up. So we were able to, our product is pretty much beetle proof. So that's the one thing. And then we the assembly piece of it and how it structurally sounds. So we don't have a plumb bob, so we build our rick house 7 stories high. You can load that barrel. And the thing about rick houses is, if you think about the weight, so, a barrel of whiskey is, 550 pounds when it's full.
Yeah.
So you put 58,000 barrels of this in a rick house, there's just a tremendous amount of weight. And if you load that all to the right side when you load it, that building's going to start leaning to the right. And then you got to load the other side. So that's what the plumb bob's for, is to be able to see which way that building's leaning. And then you got to overcorrect it. So you're relying on your dad as a structural engineer would absolutely love this.
Yeah, there is
Sure.
there's actually a plumb line on those in those houses,
Yeah.
right? And you can and it hangs there, and it will shift back and forth so they can
Yeah.
see what's going on. Yeah.
So, this is 2020. This is not 1920. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the innovation has just been, where in the world's the innovation been? So we're the guys on the outside looking in, and okay, so we've teamed up with structural engineer with Brown Kubican out of Lexington, and they have we come up with a design with Koetter Woodworking to design this new mousetrap. So ours with the CNC machining, dovetail connections, the way it's assembled, we can load or unload anywhere in that warehouse without having to worry about that building moving at all.
It's amazing.
So from a structural standpoint, and the crazy thing is it's planed down, it runs through a planer, and it looks like furniture. I mean, it's almost furniture grade. But structurally, you don't have to worry about that. And then the safety thing was the big thing. So we put fall protection grating. We moved our X bracing to where that if you're rolling the barrels with your hands, you don't have to worry about your hands getting caught in what they call pinch points. So you're not losing fingers and that. And then the other thing was the walk boards. We actually filled those gaps in your walk board. So because if you're watching your fingers so you don't get them caught in a pinch point, you're not watching your feet. So now you're stepping onto a hole. So we just went ahead and eliminated those spots and took human error out of it so that they didn't have the opportunity.
That's incredible. And if you're in Louisville and you go to University of Louisville football games and you go over to the Angels Envy side, the club Angels Envy Club, you'll see the K-Racks in there. It's the actual K-Racks. And you and I sat there one halftime and you went over the whole design with me. It was fascinating. And if you go and just what you just heard here, if you go and just really look at what that looks like, it's a piece of art. It's beautiful. Yeah, it really is nice.
You all shipped one over to Scotland, didn't you?
We built a portable system, so you can pick it up with a forklift. It holds 6 barrels, 3 on the bottom, 3 on the top, and it's a rack, and you can stack those on top of each other. So we broke them down in pieces, filled a cargo container for 50 of them, and shipped them to a Scotch distillery over in Scotland. Yeah, so we went international.
You did. You did, and they knew how to put it together just by the directions on there when we were talking about it one time. I mean, I think you offered to send some guys over this.
Didn't you offer to go help?
I offered myself to go.
Oh,
Absolutely. I
you
mean,
did.
come on.
Some guys, you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
So let's talk client relationships. Share with us an example of a client relationship that really shaped how Koetter Group does business today.
We've had long-term relationships. I guess that's the first thing comes to mind. It may not be the way you want me to answer that question, but so Dad was working with Charles Westray. I don't know if you all have heard the name Charles Westray, but he was a developer.
Okay.
So he owned real estate over by GE. And Dad started working with him. And then his son-in-law, Fred Heil, went through Fred. And now we're working with his son, Brian Heil. So there's 3 generations that went through there, and then 2 on our side. So well, actually 3 on our side too. So that's been a fun relationship to see that go for 3 generations.
That's great. Yeah, that speaks volumes. Speaks a lot for you guys.
Yeah.
Being able to maintain a client like that and probably be a pretty good friend, right?
Yeah.
So probably
Had
a lot of handshake deals probably with
Oh my
everybody.
gosh.
It's all, I mean, there's no. I mean, that speaks about the relationship.
That's all they were handshake deals.
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
And I've got a buddy of Dad's right now that we just signed I told him, I said, you got to sign the contract. I said, the insurance company and stuff, they just don't.
They don't like.
They don't like that anymore. So it's hard for. He said, "You mean you don't trust me?" I said, "No, it's not that I don't trust you." I said, "Believe me, I know you're going to pay your bill, and I know you're going to pay your bills. You're going to do it." But I said, "We gotta cross our T's and dot our I's now." So
right,
that's the harder thing.
The lawyers are out there.
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
Lawyer up.
So your company, we talked about it being the 4th generation, moving beyond. How do you envision the company evolving in the 4th generation, or is that for them to decide?
Yeah. Well, it's fun. It's just like how we evolved into K-Rax. And, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I would have never predicted that.
Right.
Who saw that coming? So I don't know what it is, but I think the most important thing is just having the ability there, the opportunity for that to happen. So what we're doing, the brothers and I are trying to do now, is get it set up financially so that, right now the 5 brothers are, and you guys know this, real estate, it's contractors don't have this issue, but boy, developers sure, they got to borrow a lot of money and you got to sign a lot of guarantees.
Right.
So we're trying to set that up to where the next generation doesn't have to do that. So,
Right.
Have enough liquidity and cash and set up to where that we can continually invest and build. And that's hard, especially when you're the 5 of us and we're at the age that we are, wanting to retire and wanting to step aside. And I watched Mom and Dad go through that. We were asset rich and cash poor.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a developer in real estate, you know what I'm talking about.
I do. Yep. Yep. That could be a problem.
So trying to get past that so the next generation doesn't end up having that same situation. And then, probably the best thing we did was we set up 4 years ago a board of directors, and we brought on 2 non-family board members, and that's been awesome. I mean, it is, it used to be just the 5 brothers, and it really was nothing more than an update meeting. It really wasn't a board meeting or a strategy meeting. So these 2 non-family board members have really, really held us accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my first board meeting with them as CEO. It's like it was during COVID, and that year's numbers were, we lost our tail, and we were giving reports, financial reports, and they said, "Well, why did you lose money? What was the problem? Where was the problem?" I said, "Well, have you ever heard of COVID?" So, but they wanted to. They forced me to get more, to dive into it a little bit more, and really, it really wasn't they being critical. They said, you just want to make sure you understand where those, what would you do different the next time if you were faced with this again? So the accountability side of it. And I'd like to give them a shout out at Dale Ahern with Frost Brown Todd, and then Dan Rector with the Rogers Group.
Right.
Yep.
They're just awesome.
Great guys.
Very smart. Yeah.
Great guys.
Good people.
Yeah.
I assume that the G3 people know the trucking story. They're not going to get into the trucking business.
You know what?
They might find a trucking business or something
The thing
similar.
that,
We've done it. I mean, Jim and I have gone down some paths, and it's like, oh, that wasn't such a great idea.
Well, and the thing as I talk about the board, but really the thing that keeps you from doing that now is just like right now, every real estate deal, everything that we want to do, we got to bring before the board, and we got certain boxes it's got to check. And if it doesn't check the boxes, I mean, if it checks all the boxes, we can do it. But if it doesn't check all the boxes, up to a certain amount, we can go ahead and make that decision and go on. But if it doesn't, we got to go to the board and say, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start this trucking company.
Yeah.
And we've done our due diligence, and we know it's got enough horsepower to get up the hill, and we can do all that. So there's just accountability side. So that kind of protects them. Those are the processes that are in place that I think helps protect them from making those mistakes that we made when we didn't have the processes in place.
Mm-hmm.
Smart.
Yeah. All right. So if you had to define your legacy as a husband, a father, a leader of your company, what would it be?
I think being successful in making this transition to where it sets up, I mean, from a business standpoint, to where it is successful 4 or 5 years from now, for the next generation. And when the brothers and I talked about whether we were going to keep the company as a legacy or whether, should we think about selling it, and this was 10 years ago or so. And at the time I had no kids in the business. I've got 2 daughters and I got 1 granddaughter. And I said, I probably won't have any kids in the business, but you know what? My granddaughter may one day, she may decide she wants to be in it, or maybe her kids might decide she wants to be part of it. So if it's not there, then there's no chance she's going to be part of it, or they will be a part of it. So at least still there's an opportunity there for them to be a part of it. And, it's not just for the 200 employees we have now, but for the next 200 and for the community that we serve and the customers we serve. So that would be my legacy from the business side. I hope that one day I will be a better husband and spend more time. Kelly's, as most wives do in any business, they kind of take the back burner. We try and balance business and family and personal. So they're already down to 1/3 at that point. So I probably need to be a little bit more fair in giving her that third. So,
hey Bob, I know education, and particularly Catholic education, means a lot to us personally, and how we both give back to the community. Can you talk to that a little bit about you guys? We're involved and you're involved.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've thought about that, and we've talked about it a little bit, but not really in great detail. I see what you guys do for the Catholic education in Kentucky, and I was on the board at Providence High School for 2 different terms. I was chaired 2 capital campaigns, and probably my most proud award of accomplishment was the celebrating Catholic schools' values in Southern Indiana. So they don't do it like the Archdiocese does here in Louisville. I mean, it's a big deal, and you all raise a lot of money.
I got the Community Service Award.
Yeah.
For the Catholic Education Foundation.
So I knew you had
similar to that.
And I got the Career Achievement Award.
Yeah.
For the Archdiocese in Annapolis. Probably one of my most proud moments of everything, because I do believe. And I was young when I was chaired my first term on the board at Providence, and now, so the 5 of us brothers went to Providence. Our 2 daughters and most of all my nieces and nephews went to Providence, except for 2. And then my granddaughter, she's playing volleyball. She's a sophomore playing volleyball at Providence now. And as in volleyball, as Assumption and Mercy and Sacred Heart knows, that Providence is probably one of their bigger
Yes, they
competitors.
are.
And we've won 7 state championships at Providence. So, and you do that with a small group. I mean, it's cool, not just from a sports standpoint, but even my education. I don't think I could have done what I've done. And there's a lot of good public schools. I don't
Absolutely.
criticize that, but it was more the faith and the family and just knowing you had that behind you. And I think in today's world, there was a guy in my office today that I was so proud of. He hired him in. He was 18. He's 26 now, and he wants to be a superintendent, or he wants to move up. And he was talking about things, and man, that 30-minute conversation with him was like, oh my gosh, man, did you really grow up? But he was talking about, he said, well, I had a baby. So that always makes you grow up a little bit. And then he said, and I do prison ministry. So he goes to jails and prisons and does ministry.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, you have really stepped up. So that all, family and faith, just means a lot to me, and I know it does to you guys.
It does. You look at what the Catholic schools do here in town. You look at the employment base that they generate in our community. I mean, it's a lot of the Catholic school kids that are, a big part of our workforce. One, and number two, they educate the whole person. We're talking about the whole person, talking about their faith, making them accountable to their fellow human being and to the person and people around them. And it's profound, the trajectory that will put you on in life. I've seen it with my stepdaughter, and it's incredible to watch all these youngsters that she was around, and to see how they're coming out of college and what they're beginning to do and what's kind of driving them. And they're, like I just said, it's forming the whole person, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having drinks tonight with some 25-year-olds who graduated with my oldest son. They want to sit down and talk to me about business and work and everything like that. And so it's really interesting watching how they've evolved and become really just great people in this community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is awesome. It's makes me feel good about our future.
Agree.
Yep.
Agree.
Well, Bob, thank you very much for coming in and joining us. Really do appreciate it, and appreciate the time. You've built a fabulous company with your brothers, and we wish you the best of luck as you continue on.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks for your friendship.
Yeah.
Yep.